Hi guys, welcome back to Hello Younger Me. Today we'll be talking about housing and the different kinds of housing for a student. Do you want to live on campus? Do you want to live off campus? What are the benefits of moving off campus? Should you move off campus? If you are interested, stick around. Okay, so if you are an incoming freshman, meaning this is your first semester in the United States, I know some schools have regulations on where you can live. Excuse me. Some schools require you to live on campus. Like you cannot move away. And I mean it's for a good reason. Because it's easier to get used to the environment. It's easier for you to go to classes, especially if you're international and you don't have a car and you're not even sure of how to move around. Then having your classes like 5 minutes away really helps. You are, even if you want to consider moving off campus eventually, you don't even know the areas to move. I mean, some areas are not so safe, some areas are far from everything, so it just makes life a bit harder for you. But if you live off campus for at least the first year or the first semester, you know where to move because you explore the city, you know the good spots, you know the bad spots, you know what you want in an apartment, you know what you can't live without. So yeah, so that's a requirement. That could be a requirement for your school, so find out about that first. But if you are not a first year student and you have done the whole drill, you've seen what you want to see on campus, and you've had friends that moved off campus and you want that life, well, I'm here to tell you more about that life. If you should do it, it's honestly, it's your decision. Either way, you'd be fine. There are just some things that come with off campus and some things that come with on campus. Okay. Personally, for me, I know I lived off campus for my second year till I graduated from undergraduates, and it was nice. On campus was nice too, but I feel like that also depends on the state your school is in, the city your school is in, the price of housing, the price for off-campus apartments. Everything is a factor, you know. But if you are interested in making that move, there are some things you should know to determine if you would like that life. So stick around. So the first thing you should consider if you want to move off campus is, can you do away with some luxuries? Because I know on campus most of the schools will provide you everything you need. Some of them, they might not have like kitchens, they might require you to have a community kitchen as like a public kitchen where everyone on your floor or everyone in your building can come and cook. But they probably will have like a TV cable. You don't need to buy cable. Cable is like how they watch like TV channels, and some may have like washers and dryers. They may have like a grocery store right by campus. It's close to campus, it's fully furnished, everything is paid for, like your utilities, so your electricity, Wi-Fi is paid for in your bill. What else? Water is paid for. You can turn on your AC anytime you want without worrying about the bill because it's all paid for. Yeah, those are some nice things that come on campus, but because of all those many good things, it's a bit pricey. Yeah, that honestly, that's the only, I guess, the bad part about on campus. And also some schools, they give kind of ripping you off for what they give you, because sometimes you may have all those luxuries, and then you have to be sharing like bathroom or like a room with somebody for after like paying a high amount of money, and if you taking that money to off campus, you can get a better deal with like depending on how private you are. If you like your own space, your own bathroom, then can get that off campus for, you know, a similar amount of money. But like off campus, if they have, it's more flexible with the other luxuries. So like you get one that you don't have a washer and dryer in your apartment, but there are washers and dryers like in the so in the community area, you know, so you have to share washers and dryers. And some may offer you no furnished apartments, you know, so if you are fine with that, you can find a cheaper apartment that you buy the furniture yourself. And you know, you can always go to like a used place like Goodwill to buy furniture for cheap. So if you can do it with some luxuries, then yeah, you should consider having an off-campus apartment. The second thing I'd say is cooking for yourself, because the thing is with on-campus housing, you usually have to pay for dining. Dining is like your school's cafeteria, and I mean sometimes it's like 1,000 or 2,000 for the whole semester, you know. So you, because some of your schools on campus housing may not let you cook, so they provide you with dining, but you have to pay for that dining. I think most of them it's like not 24/7, but like it's unlimited. You can go and eat there whenever. Some limit you, depends on your school again. But if you can cook for yourself, or if you found like a cheaper alternative, like maybe you stay close to your family and you can go and get food for them, or maybe you pay for like a more affordable meal plan from all these meal kits companies, you know, Blue Chef and Blue Apron and Green Chef and the rest of them. Like if you found a way to make your eating choices cheaper, then you might want to consider off-campus housing. Okay. The third thing is if you don't have family around you, if you don't have somewhere else to stay, if you're not in school, because with school housing, it's usually for when school's in session, so during your semesters or the quarterly system, depending on what stage you are in. Some schools use a semester system, some schools use a quarterly system. So but when school is in session anyways, you have housing, right? What if when you go on break, like summer break or like breaks within your schools, when your school is in session? Some schools, like it all depends. Some schools might offer you the option of staying on campus, but then you pay for how much you stay for the days during the break that you want to stay, you know. And sometimes you have to keep moving, like, you know, maybe, so some schools have multiple housing options. Maybe for during the breaks, there's only one of the housing option that's opened, a different building from yours. So sometimes you have to keep moving from this one to another one to another one. And sometimes after the next year, so if you stay in a housing option on campus for a year, they might move you to a different one the next year. It all depends. So if you don't like that wahala, the stress of moving up and down, then you could consider off-campus, because off-campus they work with like leases. A lease is a document between you and the apartment management, so it's like a contract basically. And one of the things in that contract is how long you can stay in that particular apartment. So if you get like a year lease, 12 months, and you keep renewing it before it expires, you can stay in the apartment till you graduate. You know, no one is gonna, if you don't break any laws, they won't move you out or anything, you know. So that's a good option if you want to have that. Okay, so we talked about, you know, the benefits of having off campus. What about the downsides? Because not everything is perfect in life, you know. So the first thing would be it could be far away, depending on where your apartment is. You know, if in a lot of cities that have big schools in them, like my undergrad was at Baylor University, and it was in a small city, Waco, Texas. So because it was a big school in a small city, a lot of the apartments were catered to students. So there will be a lot of apartments close to the school, so it wouldn't be too far away. And because there are a lot of apartments close to your school, a lot of people in those apartments are students. so that would, it could help you get a ride to school if you need that, you know. And because we're close to school, those apartments, they had like shuttle, like buses that would run from the apartments to school. And that's not a guarantee for every place you go to, right? So that's something you need to consider. Like, how do you get yourself from your apartment to class for to your school, right? If you have a car, if you drive, fantastic. If you're in a city that has a lot of good commuting options like trains and buses are very reliable, awesome. If you don't have those, and you have like a bicycle, it's possible, though. Just know that you might have to leave extra early for classes, you know. You might have to factor that in to you getting an apartment. Like, how am I gonna get from home to school? Okay. The second thing is, you might not be, it depends, you might not be able to make a lot of friends quickly, right? Because if your apartment is far away, you're constantly thinking about how you're gonna get yourself to home. Maybe you have to leave school early and stuff like that. It doesn't apply to everyone. Sometimes there may actually be more students that live off campus than on campus, or you know. So it's just something that you need to be aware of. Like, okay, like, am I going to still be able to be social with my friends if I live off campus, you know? Sometimes like after you live on campus for a year, if that was a requirement for your school, when you want to move off campus, you can also you could move with your friends, you know. That could help that factor. So your friends could be your roommates and stuff. Reasonable people, though, because roommates, I'll just see people later, but it's very dicey getting roommates, you know. Make sure you can trust that person. You guys vibe a lot, you guys can communicate. The third thing would be, apartments usually just require you to pay rent. Some of them, your rent includes utilities like electricity, water, sewage, trash, parking. Some apartments, they don't have that, you know. So that means you have to pay individually. So you pay your rent, you now go and pay electricity to the electricity company, you pay your water bill to the water company, you pay your Wi-Fi to the Wi-Fi company. You see everything I'm counting? That could be stressful depending, you know. So if you are, you know, you need to be organized. Basically, you need to be able to remember you need to pay all these bills, and also consider those bills when you decide to move off campus, if it's still cheaper than moving on campus. Depends on your city, it depends on a lot of things. So I'm just giving you points to research and make sure you are aware of before you make the move, so you don't regret anything. Because once you sign that lease, the contract between you and your apartment management, it almost takes an act of God to break that contract. So make sure you are ready. Make sure you have done all your research and you're ready for this move. Okay. The fourth thing, give or take, is that your roommates when you move off campus might not be students. You know, if you live in a city where the apartment you got is not close to school, you might have, you know, other people that are working as your roommates, and it could be a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. I feel like it's easier usually to deal with students because they're as young as you, and you know, they don't like wahala, they don't like trouble. You know, you guys can relate on certain things. It makes it easier to vibe with them. But then having people that are not students might be a bit tricky. Maybe they have different hours from you. When they are awake, you're asleep, you know, brings conflict. What if they are like married and they have like, you know, people, all that family members always come over, you know, and that's not your vibe, and you can't really tell them not to because, you know, it's their house too. Just a lot of things that come, like, you know, just be ready for that's gonna grow up faster living off campus, because you have to learn to deal with situations like that. Okay, so we've gone through the benefits and the cons of getting an apartment off campus. So now, what would you need to get? So what documents would you need to get an apartment? Honestly, it's not really tricky for international students. It's things that you should already have sometimes. You probably need an SSN. That's a social security number. Some of them would require, some apartment managements will require you to have one. Sometimes if you don't have one because you don't have a job yet, so you could even get an SSN card, then they could substitute that with other documents that you have. Okay, so it's not a must. I don't think it's a must. It just depends on how flexible they can be, you know. The second thing is your I-20 and your passports. I-20 is that document that if you're already here, you probably used it for your visa interview. You needed to have that. If you are not here yet, just be aware that you would need that for a visa interview. What's an I-20? It's a document from the US government saying that you are enrolled in a US college, meaning that you are registered to attend classes in a particular institution in the US. So it's very, very important. Literally, it's vital. Okay. I used to have a special place I kept it, so I knew where it was every single time. Okay. So because when you also get here, it's also a way of getting benefits that you are eligible for because you are an F1 student, which is the class of visa you are as a student here in the United States. So like benefits like getting a driver's license, getting a bank account, getting a don't use it for credit cards now. But yeah, things like that. So a lot of places here would require you to show them your I-20 to verify that you are an international student. So yeah, your apartment management might ask you for that. Okay. And your passport, if you already have a driver's license, a United States driver's license, then you might not need your passport because it's just a form of identification. But I mean, as an international student, you must have a passport. That's why, they might just default to that, because to enter a country, you have to have your international passport. Yeah. And then another thing that they might ask for is proof that you make 2 times or 3 times more than the rent. Okay, so if your rent is 600, they might want you to show that you make 1,800, so like $1,800. That might not be possible. It seems very unrealistic for a student because you can't walk off campus. So how are you meant to make that amount of money? There are other ways to get around that. One of the ways is that they might require you instead to pay a huge deposit. Okay, so what's it called? Yes, I think it's called like a security deposit, and that could be like maybe first month's rent and last month's rent. Okay. And if you can afford to, if your family can afford to do that, then that's fine. You can do that instead. The second way is to have like a co-signer or guarantor. A co-signer is just someone that is putting their name on the line for you. So they are saying that if by any situation you cannot pay your rent, that they are responsible for it. It's a big, I mean, if you have a family member here, it's not that big of a deal, as long as you always have money, they can just, stand in for you to officially say that they would, take care of it if there's any need. But yeah, a note I want to add in is that if you're international, my country, Nigeria, is really strict about sending money abroad. So, if you have an on-campus housing, it might be easier for your family to send money from the country if your country has any restriction, because they could send the money directly to your school, so your country is sure that the money is going to your school. There's no so I say that because in countries that are really strict about fraud and they want to make sure you're not sending money abroad for fraudulent reasons, it's easier to send money directly to a school. So if you're living on campus, the money goes straight to your school, right? But if you're living off campus, it might be a bit tricky because they might not be able to send money directly to the apartment. Okay, so that's just tidbit I want you to keep in mind if that's the case for you. The last thing I wanted to say is that moving off campus, you should not be pressurized. Okay, don't do it because other people are doing it. It's an individual decision. Do your research. I always say in everything, do your research. Know the no of the no. Okay, so that you can back up your decision when the time comes. Okay, if you know someone who's deciding to move off campus or on campus, or if you're trying to convince your parents if they could let you move off campus, feel free to share this video, give them more information, share other videos, other articles. I have an article on this too on my blog. It's linked down below. But yeah, thank you again for coming back. Let me know if you have any other questions in the comment section, if there are more things about apartments you want to know. Please subscribe and like and share, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye.
You got that something that can't be seen. You got that one thing